You know, sometimes you listen to an old record, something really classic, and you think you know it inside and out. You've heard it 1,000 times. But then one day, maybe you're just a little more focused, or the light hits it just right, and you hear something new. Something that wasn't there before, or at least you didn't notice it. And it can be a little spooky. Not like a scary movie ghost, but more like a whisper from another time, a presence you can't quite explain. That's what happened to me with a certain Elvis track. You put it on, it's slow, it's a ballad, and he's singing his heart out. And then you hear it. This thing, it's behind his voice, almost like it's part of his voice, but not really. It's a faint echo, a duplicate, a kind of spectral shadow. It's not a harmony. It's not a second singer. It's just there. And it makes you wonder, what is that? Where did it come from? It feels like a secret tucked away in the grooves, a little bit of magic that makes the whole song even more powerful. And it really is powerful. The song is already filled with a kind of longing, a deep sadness. Elvis is pouring out his soul, telling a story of heartbreak. His voice, even without this extra sound, is just incredible. It's rich, it's full of emotion, it's raw, but then you layer this other sound on top, this almost ethereal quality, and it takes it to another level. It makes his voice sound huge, bigger than life, like he's singing in a vast, empty hall, or maybe like his thoughts are echoing inside his own head. It's not just a technical trick, it becomes part of the song's character, part of its very DNA. And it's so subtle, sometimes you might miss it if you're not really listening. But once you hear it, you can't unhear it. It just sits there, an interesting and unique element in the background, shaping the overall feeling of the record. You know, thinking about that sound, it immediately takes you back to a specific place and time. It's not just some random effect. This sound, this almost ghostly quality, it points directly to a tiny studio in Memphis, Tennessee. It was a small place, really, just a storefront, but it was buzzing with ideas. This was Sun Records, Sam Phillips' place. And Sam, he was a visionary. He wasn't just trying to record music. He was trying to capture something raw, something new, something that hadn't been heard before. He wanted to find a sound that felt alive, that had an edge, that could jump right out of the speakers and grab you. And he found it, often through experimentation, through trying things that other people weren't even thinking about. He was kind of a mad scientist of sound, always tinkering, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible with the equipment he had. He didn't have fancy gear, he had basic stuff, but he knew how to use it and how to push it. And that's where this particular sound started to take shape, in those early days, in that small, hot room. The whole setup for that sound was pretty simple on the surface, but brilliant in execution. Sam Phillips didn't have all the high-tech digital effects we have today. He had tape. Big, clunky tape machines. And he had an idea. He took the signal from the microphone, Elvis's voice, and instead of just sending it to one tape recorder to record, he split it. Or he sent the main signal to one recorder, which was doing the actual recording onto the master tape. Then he sent a copy of that signal after it had been recorded to a second tape recorder. This second machine was set up to play back the sound almost immediately, just a fraction of a second after it was recorded. And then he fed that played back sound from the second machine back into the first machine, mixing it with the live signal. So you had Elvis singing into the mic. That sound went to the main recorder. A very, very short moment later, maybe a tenth of a second, that same sound came out of the second recorder. And that slightly delayed sound was then mixed back in with Elvis's live voice. It wasn't a perfect, crisp echo like you hear in a big hall. It was more like a quick, almost stuttering repeat. A slap of sound coming right back at you. That's why they called it slapback echo. It was unique. It made the voice sound bigger, fuller, and also gave it this kind of unearthly quality. It wasn't just one Elvis singing, it was like two Elvises, one just a hair behind the other, creating this shimmering, slightly blurred effect. And because it was an analog process, with actual tape spinning, there were always tiny variations, slight imperfections that just added to its organic feel. It felt real, but also very unreal at the same time, and that's why it hits you as ghostly. It's not a real ghost, of course. It's just sound waves doing their thing. But our brains, they interpret things in interesting ways. When you hear a sound and then a very quick, slightly fainter repeat, it messes with your perception of space. It sounds like the voice is bouncing off something, but it's happening so fast that it's more like the voice is stretching or maybe splitting into two. It's like you're in a room where the acoustics are just weird, or maybe you're dreaming and sounds are behaving strangely. The voice sounds like it's both here and not here, present, and then just a little bit removed, like a memory or a shadow. And that's what a ghost often feels like, right? A presence that isn't quite solid, a trace of something that was once there. This slapback echo creates a sonic illusion of that. It makes Elvis's voice feel larger than life, but also a little bit disembodied, as if it's echoing not just in the room, but through time itself. It's a very clever trick, and it works on a deep, almost subconscious level. No one else was consistently doing this kind of thing, not for this type of music anyway. Other studios might have used some reverb, sure, but Sam Phillips' slapback was distinct. It wasn't just a studio effect you threw on, it became an integral part of what people called the sun sound. It was raw, it was immediate, and it was revolutionary. It took the energy of blues and country music, blended it with rhythm and blues, and then gave it this unmistakable sonic signature. It made the music feel more alive, more vibrant, more edgy. It wasn't polished and smooth like some of the pop music of the day. It was rough around the edges, full of grit and passion, and the slapback echo just amplified all of that. It gave a kind of spaciousness to the recordings that made them sound different from anything else on the radio. People heard it and they knew instinctively that this was something new. This was the sound of something breaking through, something that was going to change everything. It was like electricity bottled up in a record. And think about the impact this had on Elvis himself. This sound became part of his sound. It amplified his already incredible voice, making it even more iconic. When you hear those early Sun recordings, that echo is inseparable from his performance. It gave him an aura, a mystique, made him sound larger than life, almost mythical. He wasn't just a singer from Tupelo, Mississippi, and then Memphis. He was a force of nature, and the slapback echo helped convey that. It made his records jump out of the radio. It wasn't just the songs he sang, or the way he sang them, or his looks. It was the whole package, and that unique sonic treatment from Sam Phillips played a huge role in creating that legend. It helped define his early identity, setting him apart from all the other singers who were trying to make it big at the time. He had a sound no one else had, a sound that was raw and thrilling, and a bit haunting. It was perfect for the kind of boundary-pushing music he was making. It was the sound of a new era being born. The whole thing points to the amazing human element behind all this. It wasn't some pre-programmed setting on a computer. It was a guy, Sam Phillips, and his engineers in a small studio, probably late at night, fiddling with tape machines. They were listening intently, turning knobs, moving microphones around, trying different distances, different speeds. They were probably arguing, laughing, getting frustrated, and then finally hitting on something that just worked. It was a process of trial and error driven by a relentless pursuit of a particular feeling, a particular emotion. They weren't just technically proficient. They were artists in their own right, using technology as their brush and canvas. They had an idea in their head, a sound they were chasing, and they figured out how to create it with the limited tools they had. That kind of hands-on, intuitive experimentation is rare now in the age of digital precision. It was raw, organic engineering. It was about listening, truly listening, and letting your ears guide you to something new and exciting. And that's what makes it feel so special. It's not just a setting, it's a creation. And what about the psychology of that sound? Why does it grab us the way it does? When you hear a sound and then its immediate, slightly fainter ghost, it creates a sense of space that isn't quite real. It makes your brain work a little harder to process what it's hearing. It's like your ears are trying to locate the source, but it keeps doubling back on itself. This slight disorientation, this subtle sense of the uncanny, pulls you in. It makes you lean forward a little, pay closer attention. It adds a layer of depth and mystery to the voice. It's not just a flat, dry sound. It breathes, it expands, it fills the air in a way that feels almost supernatural. It's unsettling in a good way, like hearing a beautiful melody that also has a touch of melancholy. It connects with our primal understanding of echoes in caves or vast open spaces, but it compresses that feeling into a tiny fraction of a second, making it feel intimate and personal, yet also expansive. It's a very clever way to manipulate our perception and evoke a specific emotional response without us even fully realizing why. This sound, this slapback echo, it didn't just fade away after Elvis left Sun Records. Oh no. It became a signature. It influenced countless other artists. Think about rockabilly music, for example. That sound is synonymous with the genre. Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, all those early Sun artists, they benefited from that sound, and they carried it with them. Other studios tried to replicate it with varying success. It became a kind of holy grail for a certain type of raw, energetic rock and roll. And even when recording technology evolved, and new effects like true digital delay and reverbs became available, the slapback echo remained a go-to for artists wanting to evoke that classic vintage sound. It's still used today, often subtly, to give a vocal or a guitar that little extra something, that hint of the past, that touch of spaciousness. It's a timeless effect, born from a humble setup, but achieving an impact that lasts decades and continues to resonate in music today. It just shows how a simple, well-applied idea can have such an enormous and lasting influence. Now, let's bring it back to this specific track. This particular Elvis song. It's a slow, reflective tune. It's all about loneliness, yearning, and a kind of deep, quiet sadness. And that's why the slapback echo works so incredibly well here. It enhances the melancholy. When Elvis sings those lines, his voice already conveying so much pain, the echo adds another layer of isolation. It's like his voice is echoing in an empty room, or perhaps echoing through the vastness of his own broken heart. It makes the song feel bigger, grander, but also more intimate in its despair. The echo isn't just a cool effect, it's an emotional amplifier. It takes the feeling of being alone and makes it resonate even more deeply. It gives the impression that his voice is reaching out into a void, searching for something that isn't there. It's a perfect marriage of technology and emotion, where the sound engineering perfectly serves the lyrical content and the vocal performance. It makes an already beautiful, sad song even more profoundly moving. It's part of what makes this version of the song so unforgettable, so iconic. So, when you hear that strange, ghostly sound, that subtle doubling, that faint repeat behind Elvis's voice, know that it's not a mistake. It's not some accidental anomaly. It's pure genius. It's the sound of Sam Phillips, a recording pioneer, pushing the limits of what was possible with the technology of his time. It's the sound of innovation, of artistry, and of a relentless pursuit of something truly unique. It helped define an era, it helped launch a legend, and it continues to captivate listeners to this day. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest, most organic solutions can create the most profound and lasting effects. It's a signature, an earmark of a specific place and time in music history, and it's embedded forever in the fabric of this incredible recording. But that little bit of sonic magic is what makes the song truly stand out, making it an experience that is both real and wonderfully, beautifully unreal. And the song, the one with that unforgettable ghostly echo, it's Elvis Presley's Blue Moon.